Like most readers, you probably have a list or stack of books that you have been meaning to get to, and for whatever reason, you just haven't read them yet. Well, I am no different than you are. I have that same kind of stack that I have intended to get to, and for whatever reason, just haven't gotten around to it. I'm Michael Guevara. I'm your bowtie literacy guy, and this month with Perfection Learning, we're looking at books I've slept on. So I took a look at my bookshelf and pulled some things off that I'd been meaning to get to and finally got to. So I'm going to start with Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. This has been on my bookshelf forever. Oh my gosh, am I so glad that I finally made the time to read this book. It is absolutely delightful. Darius Kellner is named after great Persian king Darius the Great, but Darius doesn't feel so great. In fact, he barely feels Persian. He considers himself a fractional Persian. His mother is Persian, but his dad is, he calls him the Übermensch, and he thinks of him as conventionally attractive, whereas Darius, again, he just doesn't feel like he fits in. His younger sister, he feels, is so much more Persian because she can actually speak to their Mamu and Babu in their native tongue, which he can't. He only knows a few phrases, and so he feels left out that way. But Darius ends up, and his family end up going to visit their family in Iran, and he meets Sohrab there, who becomes his friend. Their friendship grows. He begins to come into his own a little bit, playing soccer and finding his way. But again, things aren't that simple, and there are so many complications with relationships and family and just even political crises in the world. And so this book it tackles so many things from depression. Darius is clinically depressed as well as his dad. They have a strained but also close relationship. And so it really is about family and friendship and just trying to find where you fit in and kind of learn to like yourself for who you are. So it is just a delightful book, and I'm so glad that I finally got around to reading Darius the Great is Not Okay. So if I slept on Darius the Great is Not Okay, I have definitely slept on Darius the Great Deserves Better. This has been on my shelf for quite some time too, and of course I couldn't read this one because I hadn't read the first one, and so as soon as I finished Darius the Great is Not Okay, I immediately had to go to Darius the Great Deserves Better. And again, it doesn't disappoint. But you see that Darius has kind of made such progress. He's kind of almost cool now, and he really has come into his own. He is now working at Rose City Tea, a specialty tea shop where he is really getting to dive into his appreciation and love for tea. He now has a boyfriend whose father owns Rose City Tea. He's playing soccer for his school. But again, life becomes difficult. His Babu passes away. He's still in contact with Sohrab, but there goes a long period of time where he doesn't hear from him. And then things aren't going well with his boyfriend Landon. And so it gets to this point where maybe he isn't okay as he thought he was, but also realize that he deserves better. This is such a great story about open communication and having expectations for yourself, and also just really understanding that you deserve better and that you can seek better, and that it's okay to not accept things the way they are and to try to want to have something better in your life. So another book that I've slept on, although admittedly not that long because it only came out last year, but it is Attack of the Black Rectangles by A.S. King. I should have gotten to this book right away because it's Amy King and she's incredible. And also because when I saw the title, I thought it was really reminiscent of Austin Kleon and his Blackout poetry. And if you haven't read Austin Kleon's work, Steal Like an Artist, highly recommend that as well. But that's really kind of what this put me in the mind of, but not about that at all. In fact, this book is so timely. In Attack of the Black Rectangles, the story starts with Mac and his friends. It's a middle grade book. They're in 6th grade, and they are in a reading circle reading group, and they pick The Devil's Arithmetic by Jane Yellen. And so they're reading that book, and they discover that words have been blacked out. Certain words they've been kept from reading them. And so They find a original copy of the book to see what someone doesn't want them to read, and it becomes this whole big struggle of choice and the rights of readers and censorship, and to stand up for your beliefs and your rights and friendship, and really kind of all those scary things that are kind of going on in our country now about bans on books. Such a great fun read, and there's so much more than just the story about the censorship, but also friendships and relationships and where you want those to go. But it is a wonderfully rich story with so much truth, and such an important read for where we are in our climate today. So don't sleep on this one. Go out and pick up Attack of the Black Rectangles. You'll definitely enjoy this read and really feel kind of emboldened to help others be able to read the things that they want to read. Wow, talk about sleeping on a book. I think I owe a huge apology to Andrew Smith, who is the author of Grasshopper Jungle, which is one of my all-time favorite young adult books. I recommended it to students year after year after year. It is such a quirky, bawdy, bizarre, just freakishly entertaining book. And then I found out there was a sequel to it, and I got that book, and immediately students were reading it. And so I never got around to reading it because my students had it. So I finally pulled it off of my shelf. Exile from Eden by Andrew Smith is the follow-up to Grasshopper Jungle. And oh my gosh, it just does not disappoint. It is all the things that I love from Grasshopper Jungle, which ends, this book picks up 16 years after Grasshopper Jungle, which is the story of these 6-foot tall praying mantises that all they want to do is eat people and reproduce. And so it drives humanity underground. And so 16 years later, those characters now have children, and they are kind of living underground. And so they kind of begin to emerge and explore. And it's this idea of, what I loved from the book was this idea of chasing endlessness. And Eric, who is the child of the main characters from the previous story, and his friend Mel decide to leave the hole in their compound because his dads have left, and they go in search of them, and they just encounter just trials and tribulations along the way, and their lives are in danger from these giant praying mantises, as well as what humanity has become because of this. And so, but again, just also as quirky. I mean, you've got a boy named Breakfast and his companion Olive, who turns out to be, well, maybe I shouldn't tell you, but anyway, it's just, when you find out, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so incredibly wonderful. So Exile from Eden, if you haven't read Grasshopper Jungle, obviously read that, and then go immediately to Exile from Eden, because again, this is just so much fun. And I think what it does for readers and students is to give them permission to just explore the ideas of being quirky and strange and not anything that you've seen somewhere else. And so that's so much what I love about Andrew Smith's writing in this set of stories. And so I highly recommend that. And I'm so sorry that it took me so long to get to this, but I did find a note from one of my students inside it of what he was thinking as he was reading. That was a treat as well. So Exile from Eden, definitely want to get that off of your to be read list and to your read list. Another book that I have slept on and should have read a long time ago is Slay by Brittany Morris. And as the title implies, the book absolutely slays. And it's really kind of fun because there is a little bit of a double meaning to that, because Kira Johnson is the main character in the story. She is an honor student at a private school. She is one of the few Black students there. And so there's this idea of always having to answer for all Black people when people pose questions about appropriation and those kind of things. But so she's living in that world. She's a brilliant student, math tutor, but in her private life, she is a Nubian princess in a way to speak, because she has created a role-play video game that celebrates Black excellence and Black culture. And the only problem with it is you have to have a code to be able to play the game and join this online gaming community. And the only way that you get one of those codes, it's kind of, she's built it for Black people only. And eventually what happens is somebody is killed in real life because they are selling points and things that they've earned in the game to try to improve their skills. I'm not much of a gamer, so I'm not probably explaining that well, but they try to sell in real life what they've earned in the game, and someone gets killed for that. And so the game receives some criticism. Is it racist? Is she going to be sued? And what's going to become of her game, where they slay in the game, and she eventually has to play against someone who is trying to take her down. And so again, it's just such a rich story and explores so many avenues of, again, race and culture. And you learn about McDonald's money. If you don't know what McDonald's money is, you'll find out about that, as well as other things that, again, just really celebrate the beauty of Black culture and then girls and video gaming. And that's always been such a struggle, because it's a really tough community to break into. And so there's a lot of struggles and problems and a lot of harassment in online video games. And so they address some of those things. And so it's just that there's so much fun and just a challenge, and to see the world that she creates inside the video game and to celebrate all of the excellence of Black culture. It's just a delightful book, and I'm so glad that finally made it off my to be read list, and I'm not sleeping on it anymore. In fact, I'm so glad that it is now a book I can say I've read and can share with others. So pick up a copy of Slay by Brittany Morris. You'll definitely feel glad that you did.